Happy to be joined by former UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling, who's already got his first bit of action in 2024. He takes on Chase Hooper in a grappling match, main event ADXC 2, January 19 in Abu Dhabi. What's up, Aljo? How's it going?
Very well, I'm doing good. Ready to get 2024 off to a good start.
Yeah, busy man. I mean, I can see because normally when people do grappling matches, it's kind of in between while they can't get a fight. I mean, at one point you had two grappling matches and a fight booked already. So what's the idea behind all this activity?
Well, I'm not getting any younger. That's one, and I like to compete. I think people kind of have me a little bit misunderstood. I mean, there was one year where I had 5 fights in a year. I just try to bang out as many things as I could do as long as I'm healthy. As I got older, I got a little bit more injury prone with all the setbacks, but yeah, I want to make as much money as I can, be as active as I can, and now that I'm not going to be cutting as much weight, it just makes it so much easier for me to get back out there than compared to having to get back down and lose muscle and get back down to what's it 135. So that extra 10 pounds is going to be a game changer. And now for this match, it's going to be 165. So I could do this all day, bang out these matches, no problem.
Yeah, and how did this opportunity come about, the ADXC?
Well, we spoke in Abu Dhabi. I was at I think it was one of the Warrior UAE fights or something like that. I forget the name of the promotion, but I was out there for that. I think it was a Tuesday, and I spoke to Salah, one of the head guys of the tourism, and I jokingly said I would definitely do a surprise grappling match tonight at the ADXC one event, and he said, "No, no, we want to make sure we do it right and everything." So here we are. They proposed a matchup. It was supposed to be Marlon Moraes. I thought that would have been a really fun one, and because we have some history, obviously, but for whatever reason, he's not doing it anymore, and this one came about. So I said, "Yeah, Chase Hooper's a good grappler. He's a weight class above me. So winning, losing, it's not like it means much, but I think it just gets to show the world from a different perspective how good my grappling is, and hopefully Chase doesn't butt scoot around for 5 threes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. You weren't too happy, I know, with the last one. Memorable post-fight or post-match interviews. So when you look at Chase Hooper, do you expect any of that, or do you think this one's gonna be a little bit different? And it's in a cage as well.
I hope it's a little different. I don't know. I mean, I tweeted to him. He said he promises not to pull guard in the first 30 seconds. So anything after that, all bets are off. We'll see what he decides to do. And I think it's people are taking the messaging a little bit wrong. You know, the guy I competed against is a combat sport. Not he's a let me not say combat. He's a sport jujitsu competitor. It's a little bit different their approach to the match. But when you have a high profile name, myself, Merab, and then you do that for people that are tuning in for a main event, they want to see action. But instead, that's what we give them. And I even told him during the middle of the match, like, bro, can we like make it fun? Can we do something? He wasn't giving me anything, so I said, "All right, here's my arm. I'm gonna let you think you have something, and then swing his ass around and get some type of entertainment for the crowd." So I don't think Chase is gonna be doing any of that. Hopefully not. And yeah, that's what it is. If you're gonna pull guard, you have to be active. You should be at a deficit. You should not have an advantage. It shouldn't be equal, even if it's sub only. I think that just favors you for someone who wants me to give you what you want, but then what am I supposed to do? Just play your game? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
So how do you expect this with Chase to go? Because I know this isn't an MMA fight, but we saw Chase compete at the calf slicer on Clay Guida last year. So what did you make of that performance and Chase's kind of grappling in general?
I think Chase is long, he's wiry, he's got unorthodox attacks and things like that. So I think that's what's going to make him tough. I don't know how strong he is. I know he's going up a weight class, 155 now. He beat Jordan Levitt, who's a pretty solid grappler, someone I've grappled with out here in Vegas multiple times. And I was pretty impressed with what he was able to do. Um, but yeah, I expect him to make it an entertaining match. I'm not expecting him to go out there and full on wrestle me. I'm not. I would like to go for some type of submissions, get some scrambles going. I just would like for it to be a high pace, fun matchup to get people who have never watched jujitsu and they're either fans of myself or Chase to kind of get them to want to tune in and buy in to see what jujitsu is all about and what it can be. So hopefully that's what we get to give the fans.
When do you get to Abu Dhabi?
The 14th. I get there the 14th. I fly out Sunday. My weight's pretty much in control. I walk around about 170 pounds, so a little more than that, but give or take. I think the weight cut shouldn't be too hard. I get out there, work out for 2, 3 days. I think I should be fine. It's just going to be more about being technical, working on the drilling, and getting ready to go.
And is this in a way a good prep as you make your featherweight debut in MMA to be competing against? Because this is grappling, right? And this is what you're very good at in your fights in MMA. So is this a good kind of prep in a way as you make your 145-pound debut to go up against featherweight turned lightweight and Chase Hooper?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think Calvin Cater is going to be as flexible as Chase Hooper and as well versed in grappling as Chase Hooper. But I think this gives me the body type. It gives me the body weight to compete against, the height. So I get to see all these different things, and with someone who actually knows what they're really doing in these positions, and they're actually a threat of finishing submission moves against myself. So this is all about getting prepped for the main goal, which is UFC 300. Fury was fun. I know ADXC is going to be fun, and get back to my real day job, which is fighting. And hopefully, we have a great, just slow and steady build into that. Get myself in shape and ready to go. Leave no stones unturned, and hopefully put the world on notice. The 145-pound division.
Yeah, and how are you feeling physically? Because I know you've had kind of some injuries that you've carried through some camps in your prior fights. So right now, how are you feeling physically?
I feel night and day better. It's so much. It's amazing what some time off where you're not being told you're gonna fight this month, and then you start training, then you stop training, and then they push it back another month, and then they push it back another month. So to have some type of layoff where I was able to just relax, hang out, get the vacation out of me that I wanted to get out, after I beat Henry. I didn't really get to enjoy that moment at all. It was a huge moment for me against a very well decorated guy, and it just kind of sucks that I felt like I was kind of robbed of that opportunity to enjoy the victory. Take a little bit of a victory lap. That's all I ever wanted. So after the Sean loss, I was able to do that, and I think that kind of recharged the battery. Like literally on vacation, I'm telling my fiance Rebecca that I can't wait to get back and start training. Like I miss training. I miss watching the fights. I miss being in the mix, like that adrenaline feeling. And of course, I was not in shape, but I'm feeling way better, physically way better. I don't know if there's any serious injuries that didn't heal because I haven't really been training full throttle. We'll find out when I start training camp. But as of right now, today, I feel great. I feel amazing, and I look forward to the future. I think this is gonna be a new year, new me, so to speak.
And something that Israel Adesanya said after he lost his belt, it was an interview with Teddy Atlas. I think it was recorded prior, but when he was talking about that Sean Strickland loss, he said moving forward, he kind of wants to focus on quality over quantity because he was such an active champion, and you just kind of talked about that. So do you see a similar thing for yourself now? Uh, is it more about getting the right opportunities as opposed to just jumping back in?
Yeah, the right opportunity's got to make sense. I'm not looking to take on the new guy who's got 2 fights in the UFC. I'm almost at. I think I'm pretty much a 20 fight veteran. I might be 15-4. Yeah, I think I'm 1 fight away from having 20 fights with the company. And there's only been 3 guys that I fought that were not ranked. So when I put that in perspective, like I fought Achilles row, and I was always trying to push myself, even when I had injuries, delaying the injuries and making other injuries worse. It will be nice, and I definitely resonate with that take from Izzy. Like you get the burnout factor, whether or not you want to say you're ready to go. Sometimes you don't think as clear as you would if you did have that time to reset and make the best decision making skills that you could have if you had a little bit more of a break in between. And I'm not saying that would have changed the outcome of the fight if they fought later on, but it's a tough thing to do to ask a champion to train for 5 rounds and put on multiple fights in a year. It's pretty standard for champs to fight 1 time in a calendar year. 2 is very good. If you're doing that, you're above average. And if you could do 3 and 4, like Izzy and Usman were able to do, Very few people have done that. And I think people have been a little bit spoiled in thinking that that's the norm of what it should be. These are 5 round fights, and people who fight 3 rounds don't even fight that often. So put that in perspective of how far these fights go, the damage people take, and the damage you take in a training camp just to get to the fight. Despite what the fight might look like, it might not look as. I've had fights where it didn't look like I took a lot of damage, and as soon as the fight's over, everything that I put into the camp feels like it held together just long enough to get to the fight, and it feels like my body went through a complete just battering. Just felt like, yeah, that fight might have looked like that, but my body is in pain. So I think it's cool to have the downtime, and I'm excited to get back. I think that's the most important thing. The most important point for me is I want the fans to know I'm excited to get back, and I think I'm gonna have new life, new energy at this weight class, and I'm definitely nervous because I'm used to being the bigger guy, even though I don't get that big when I rehydrate at 35. But I think I left some stuff in the gym, cutting down to 135. So I like to see what I can do at 45, and I think I'm gonna shock the world.
Safe to say 100% bantamweight is done for you.
Safe to say, my one of my managers was asking me about that today about going down to 135. I was like, brother, let's stop this conversation right here. There's no more 135. Like I didn't even want to do it the last time, and, and whatever. I'm not even gonna bring that up again because then people are gonna say, oh, he's making excuses again. I was like, this is just all factual, but 135 is done.
All right, and moving forward to UFC 300, but we got UFC Newark right before that. A part of you want to be part of that event, or I mean, UFC 200 is massive, right?
Yeah, UFC Atlantic City is gonna be huge, but I've always been wanting to fight in Vegas for a very long time, and not just in Vegas. Fight at the T-Mobile. I fought at the Cosmopolitan, and I fought the Mandalay Bay twice, and I fought the Apex twice. I would like to fight at the big T-Mobile arena, and this is pretty much home for me now. So it would be nice to fight here, and I could kind of just wake up and go down the block, and I'm ready to get into a fist fight. So I think that's going to be a cool experience. I got 2 or 3 teammates that are going to be on the Atlanta City card March 30th. Hopefully, I can make it out for there. It's a big ask for me to get on a plane, but I've done it before. I'm just gonna see how my body's feeling, and maybe I can get out there and go corner, or at least get out there to watch, and still get my work in, and be able to be a good teammate and support.
And you draw Calvin Kattar. I know you had mentioned you initially wanted Max Holloway, but you also kind of mentioned that it was probably going to be Calvin. Was there anyone else in the discussion outside of Calvin and Max?
Yeah, there was a couple other names. One of them is the guy I train with now at Extreme Couture. It just didn't make a lot of sense. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go. Hey, buddy. Uh, by the way, the UFC said we should fight. I had other options. Um, and Cater was the highest ranked out of that pool. I know Holloway is looking to do bigger things, either going up a weight class or waiting to see if he's going to get an opportunity to fight the winner of Topuria and Volk. And if Topuria wins, I think it opens the door wide open for Holloway. So he's trying to play his cards right. Um, he doesn't get much out of fighting me other than fighting another really big name from a divisional standpoint, in the sense of what I was able to do in my division and what he was able to do in his division. I think we're almost neck and neck. I would probably say that he has maybe a little bit of a better resume, but I think it'd just be a huge fight. That's more so what that was. I want the big fights. Like we say, quality over quantity, right? That's the quality right there. I want the big names on the resume. I want the big scalps to take home.
And when you look at the matchup with Calvin, because on paper it kind of looks like a striker versus grappler, we haven't seen too much of Calvin's grappling, at least in the UFC. But from what you've seen, from what you potentially know, what do you make of Calvin Kattar's grappling?
I don't know. I mean, I think we're all on the same page. We haven't seen much of it. We don't know what it looks like. I know the few guys that have tried to take him down didn't really have much success. I'm sure if I get him down, it should be relatively smooth sailing for me, depending on how much time I have left on the clock. Like I took Henry Cejudo down towards the end of the round, which saved him a lot of damage and saved him a lot of risk from a potentially getting finished or submitted standpoint. So it depends. If I could get him down early, I think it could be a very interesting fight to see how much work he's put into the ground game. But I don't. I don't rate Calvin as a super high level jiu-jitsu guy, but he's got good anti-wrestling for the few guys that have tried to take him down. And he hits hard. He's very consistent, durable, efficient. He doesn't get tired. He's even with the battering from Max Holloway, he was able to keep pushing forward, starting to throw elbows even when he's not even fully coherent. It's a tough. This is a tough dogfight, man. I think a lot of people are they're kind of writing him off. I'm not writing him off. I don't overlook anybody anymore. So I'm getting myself mentally prepared for a dogfight.
Was he ever on your radar? Because I would have thought maybe you and Rob Font would have probably fought before you and Calvin, right?
Yeah, 100%. So we were actually in where was it? Rob Font fought Sandhagen in Nashville on short notice, and we all did like sparring in the room. And Calvin was there, but I went with one of his teammates, one or two of his teammates. I think he's possibly in the UFC. It was weird. The kid like posted a picture of me, and then shortly after when I fought O'Malley, he posted a picture of him doing something similar to O'Malley. It was kind of like trying to big himself up. It was weird. People do weird things though. Um, but we didn't spar. We didn't spar. It's almost like we knew or we had a feeling or it was out of respect for Rob Font. He didn't want to train with me because he didn't want to make it weird. We did train together when I was an amateur. That was back in like 2010. Um, that was like I think one or two sessions. It might have just been one, but that was 2010. So I didn't really think nothing of it. I saw him in there. I wanted to ask him to move around with him, just because it was a body, and we had one of our guys making his UFC debut, but we didn't work out. So it was almost like the writing was on the wall, but more about like respect for his teammate. Then comes full circle. Now I'm fighting him instead. Crazy.
Yeah, and with a win over Calvin, because like you say, featherweight, if Ilia Topuria beats Volkanovski, that's kind of fresh blood. If Volkanovski wins, when you kind of look at the guys ranked, the top ranked guys, Volkanovski's kind of beaten a lot of those guys, or a lot of those guys were at least in the title picture recently. So do you see maybe a win over Calvin earning you a title shot?
If it does, it's all about the way I do it. If I go out there and it's just like Izzy versus Yoel Romero, I ain't getting shit. So it really just depends on the fight. So hopefully it's a good fight. I really do think it's gonna be a good fight, and then we can figure it out from there. See how that fight goes with Max, not Max, Topuria and Volkanovski. And yeah, you're right. It does give me an avenue to kind of slide in there. I just got to make sure I do my job, and hopefully I'm in the right position at the right time. Maybe one of those guys gets really, really banged up, and it gives me a chance to slide in there, or maybe an interim between myself and Max. I don't know. I'm not really looking too forward to like that. I'm just trying to take this one match, one fight at a time, and hopefully good things happen. Hopefully we roll into 2024 on a good note.
Who do you think wins, Volkanovski or Topuria?
I don't know. I'm looking at that like if there's any time to beat Volkanovski is right now, especially after such a quick turnaround from that knockout. It wasn't like an easy knockout. It was a pretty bad one where his head was pinned up against the cage from his knee and taking a bunch of extra shots that he didn't need to take. With that being said, I don't know how much he's given himself to recover from all that damage, and we know Taporia can punch, but I just think Taporia might be a little bit. He's shown less tools than Volkanovski has in the past, so that's what makes it interesting. But then the part where he's been knocked out, you got to put some type of stock into that. What does that look like for Volkanovski if he gets cracked or he gets touched? Is he going to get wobbled really easily? Can he sustain the damage and keep going forward? Or if he gets touched one time, could that be the beginning of the end for him? So I don't know. It's a really tough fight to call, and I like both guys. May the best man win.
Do you have any kind of preference? Like for you, does it matter who's at the top when you hopefully reach there?
No, I mean the belt's the belt. Whoever's got the belt is the guy who's currently the best. So it's Volkanovski, it's Arnold Allen, it's Evloev, and whoever. Giga Chikadze, it's all the same. Whoever's got the belt is at that point in time the best in the world.
I know you've left bantamweight behind, but want to ask you about Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera. How do you see that one playing out, the rematch?
I I don't think Sean is overlooking Cheeto. I think he's really trying to get this one back. Because Cheeto punished him in that first fight that it had. Yeah, he can say, "Oh, he kicked my leg and 1 in a million." Yeah, but it happened. The same thing, like 1 in a million. I get frustrated and I run into a punch. It's just like we could play that game for how many different fights. So the way I'm looking at this is if Cheeto sticks to his guns, which is being patient, taking his time, slowly building. I just think he should start a little bit faster. And then with Sean, if he can stay long and he can stay on the gas for 5 rounds, because he uses a lot of footwork. That was what my strategy was. He's gonna get tired. He got tired with Jan, and Jan doesn't even really wrestle all that much and do all these other things. So I figured the longer the fight went, hindsight's 2020. Obviously, that was the game plan, but I completely aborted that game plan. Um, I do think there's a little chink in the armor of O'Malley that he's shown in the past, and whether or not he's going to fix that going into this fight with a guy who has a really good gas tank, I just don't see him finishing Cheeto unless, like I said, Cheeto gets outside of himself and makes a mistake, a very similar mistake that I made. If you fight him like I did the first round, you fight him like Pedro Munoz did for the first and the first half of the second before the eye poke, this Sean's offense is very limited in that regards, which allows Cheeto to get into the fight. So from a non-biased standpoint, I think Sean is a better fighter from a technical standpoint, but I think what Cheeto has are those intangibles, the cardio, um, the willing to go through the fire to get there. He's got a little bit of a dog in him, like those things that you can't really measure. I'm not saying O'Malley doesn't have that, but we've seen it tested with Cheeto, and we've seen him come back and put some punishment on other guys and get the finish. Guys that were beating him almost the entire fight, he comes back, he finds a way to knock him out. And I think Sean might have that in the back of his head that this guy knocked me out before, and he could potentially do it again, especially if I slip on a banana peel and somehow end up on my back again. Whether it's from a kick or he actually gets taken down, it's a very unique fight. Um, and I move a lot, right? So for me to move around for 25 minutes, it takes a lot of energy. I know if I'm Cheeto, I'm playing the long game. This time I'm having my coaches remind me, play the long game, play the long game. Let's make him exert as much energy as we can. Try to take as little damage as we can. Try to damage him where we can. Take the free kicks that we can. Slow him down, and eventually we get him in the later rounds, rounds 4 and 5. That's the way I would project that one going. Can Cheeto do that? I have no idea. I think Sean, like I said, is superior in technical striking, but the difference is those intangibles. You fight when you get in the fight, you figure out who's who. So it's it's a good fight. The wrong fight, but a good fight.
And what do you think of O'Malley saying that if he wins and Topuria beats Volkanovski, that fight's going to happen, him and Topuria, which I'm assuming would mean he'd go up to 45.
So assuming he's trying to avoid Merab, I mean, good for him, man. He's doing all the smart things to stay away from the more difficult fights. He needed lightning to strike in the bottle one time and stack the chips to win the belt. Good for him. If he gets to fight with Topuria, if Topuria wins, it's an interesting fight. But I don't know. I want to just say that I feel like the jury's still out on O'Malley. And I feel like when I say that, people are gonna take it the wrong way, like, oh, he's just salty. I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a shit. If you're asking me my opinion, I'm just telling you from what I do when I break down fights. I just feel like the jury's still out. We know what we're gonna get with Topuria, with O'Malley. I still think there's some questions to be answered there, and then I think if you take it, you remove me from it. Just look at it from a technical standpoint. I just think there's some answers that need to be answered, some questions that still need to be answered. And him fighting Topuria, I think it's a fun fight. It's a good fight. Two stand-up guys. But Topuria's got the X factor. He's got grappling. He can actually wrestle and he can actually do jiu-jitsu. And we saw that with Josh Emmett when he needed to use it. So I don't know. I think it's a little too much too soon to jump weight classes to after one defense. That's like, at that point, it's like, what are we doing? Dana told me I couldn't do it, so you're gonna tell me he could do it? I don't know. I think the people can see where there's a little bit of favoritism with certain things, but more power to him. I hope Sean makes a shit ton of money. I hope Cheeto makes a shit ton of money. I hope all the fighters make a shit ton of money. That's pretty much my stance on everything. So
Before we wrap up, I've taken a lot of your time, so I appreciate it. I wanted to ask about your two teammates. We'll start off with Merab. He takes on Henry Cejudo, UFC 298. Great stylistic matchup, but I know you of all people know how good Merab is on the mat. We've seen it in the cage, and you fought Henry, so what kind of insight are you giving him?
Uh, I think Marab just got to do what he does best, continue to mix it up and keep that pressure on. He has a very weird, awkward tempo. So, you kind of know what he's going to do. The only thing is the way Cejudo does utilize those feints, weird hip juking thing that he does is very awkward. But it does have some practicality. Like there is some good uses of that if you stand in front of him. Marab's not going to be the guy to stand in front of him. So it's going to be interesting to see how much energy is going to be willing to exert to try to get to Marab because I don't think he's going to win a decision. And I think if he tries to take Marab down, what's he going to do? I think he's going to exhaust himself trying to take Marab down. And maybe I actually hope he does try to continuously take Merab down. I think he needs to hopefully keep it on the feet. I think that's what he needs. But I think Merab could beat him anywhere, mixing it up, which is going to open up a stand up the same way he was able to outstrike Jan on the feet because he opens everything up with his grappling. So it's going to be a fun fight. May the best man win, but I'm rolling with Merab, and he should be the next guy in line fighting for a UFC world title.
And we'll finish with this one. Chris Weidman. I said Newark accidentally earlier. I meant Atlantic City. He fights Bruno Silva. I know a lot of people were skeptical after he had injured his other leg against Brad Tavares, but you had just released a vlog. You've done some training with him as of late. What can you tell us about Chris Weidman? I know he won't back down, no pun intended, but what can you tell us about Weidman and how he's looked?
Just his mental toughness. He's willing to go through the grind. He's not done yet. He's still very adamant and still has that utmost self belief. And I think that's the most important thing. I think the other one with Tavares was a good fight. It was a good welcoming back fight. Um, we all thought it was winnable. We think Brad's. I think. I mean, I trained with Brad here in Vegas. I think Brad's very, very good. Obviously, I've come up with Weidman. Um, so it was a weird fight for myself. I felt like he let Tavares get off very, very early, and Tavares kicks a lot, and I don't think Chris put a lot of stock into that while reviewing tape, which I think he's going to reevaluate from our conversations. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think Bruno Silva is a tough dude. He gave Alex Pereira a really good fight. And I think if Weidman could get back to the old version of himself, even a shade of that, I think him kind of getting off that ring rust a little bit in the last fight, I think is going to help him be that much better in this one. And hopefully we'll see. If things don't go his way, I think that conversation of, the R word is probably going to be something that he's going to have to do. Obviously, he's going to be in Atlantic City, close to home. And if he wins, and depends how he looks, we'll see what he decides to do. I mean, Glover Teixeira had a resurgence. I mean, he didn't lose this many in a row, but I think there's still that faith, and when you have that utmost belief in yourself, I think that makes you a dangerous man. Especially, I don't think he looked all that bad. I thought he was a little gun shy, and he said the same thing. He said I felt great in the back room, which he did. He looked great when I was watching him, and then he went out there. He kind of froze. It almost looked like he was trying to figure out the controllers on how to work the game again. And it was very apparent. And he pretty much said the same exact thing. So I think my assessment of what I was looking at was pretty accurate. And like I said, him getting back in there a lot sooner than before, I think is going to give him a lot more confidence. Kind of, I know what I did wrong the last time. Now I'm going to go in there with a different strategy, different mindset, and kill or be killed and go out there and do the best he can.
And you mentioned the R word. I know featherweight is new, kind of a new chapter for you. You're still very much in your prime, at least from what we've seen from your performances. But how about you? How many more years does Aljamain Sterling have left in the game?
It's a good question. I'm taking it one fight at a time. We'll see. We'll see how this one goes, and whether or not I can hang, or whether or not I still got the motivation and the drive. Like I said, I was on vacation. I could not wait to get back. I was itching to get back in training. Working on some new stuff with Coach Eric Nixick, Coach Ray Longo, and the motivation is there. It's just got to see how the fight goes, and then see what I look like. If I look like shit, then it's just like I don't know. Then maybe that's some soul searching I'm gonna need to do. But as of right now, I couldn't be more excited to get in there and get into a fist fight.
We'll look forward to it. Aljo, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. It's already a busy start for your 2024. So safe travels to Abu Dhabi and good luck with your upcoming match and fight.
Thank you.